And we are carrying on with the same subject about how technology, how AI can actually enable equitable systems instead of keeping the digital divide. And to talk about the subject now, I'll bring to the online stage Dale Allen, President of Dexterity Institute, and Beth Havinga, Managing Director of Connect EdTech, that will talk to us about an amazing initiative they have to keep the equitable AI enabling and not creating more differences. The stage is yours.
Thank you very much, Cecilia. It's great to see you again. It's been a few years since I was with you at Israel EdTech Week. So it is a pleasure to be joining you from Boston, Massachusetts. And I'm proud to be able to share a little bit about what we're engaged with an international community to help. And it actually picks up on Efrat's comment that she just made, is how can we develop the right benchmarks and standards and collective regulations that would enable AI to support an ecosystem of equitable delivery of education. And so let me pause and do two things first before we continue on. One, our colleague Jim Larimore from RID is not able to join us. He is stuck in traffic delays, so he's in an airplane and is unable to join us, but apologizes. But Jim represents a company called RID out of Korea and the United States, which is focused on really addressing the inequities, inconsistencies, and inefficiencies that we see too often in education. So he wanted to be here today, but I will talk more about them in a moment. The second is, let me just briefly introduce, and can I share my screen, Cecilia, is that all right?
Go ahead.
Thank you. Just so people can contact us or check our websites out. So Jim's not able to join us, but a little bit about Dexterity, just briefly, because I know we're short on time. We're a nonprofit membership organization dedicated to removing obstacles that prevent education from being optimized in an equitable manner. We build infrastructure, data management solutions, next generation solutions, and environments like data sharing and data management cooperatives, where tools like AI can be tested and brought to life. We are currently involved in 7 countries and expanding operations. Everything we build are open technology solutions. So I just wanted to make that point, and we do it through communities of practice. With that, let me pause and ask my colleague Beth Havinga to introduce herself and pick up from here.
Great, thank you, Dale. It's good to see everyone as well. And it's been great to connect back to Mindset again after all this time. So I'm Beth Havinga, and for the last 8 years, I've been working as a consultant in the education space. Predominantly for the last number of years, I've been working together with governments and ministries of education, developing policy and strategies around the digitization of education. I've also been developing a number of products and strategies with various boards, and I'm currently also the acting managing director of the European EdTech Alliance, and I'm extremely excited to be supporting the EdSafe AI Alliance today. So yeah, we've heard some really, really great thoughts and ideas around AI in the last session. And I think artificial intelligence in education can seem like such an exciting opportunity to answer some of the challenges that our education systems are facing right now. We not only have to adapt to capturing entirely new types of learning information, but also support multiple modes of delivery, reflect a variety of different learning environments, compare multiple assessment structures, and all of this within hybrid situations. So in addition to some of the things we've just heard, there's globally a number of different initiatives or interpretations of this globally. From a pilot project in Australia that's looking to develop cross-subject and age-level learning paths, where each learning moment triggers other learning moments in all the other related subjects, and their subjects are seen in their totality without any kind of specific grade level milestones, through to a parliamentary body in the UK who's discussing the possibility of using AI to assess a student's engagement in their learning situations through measuring mood and punctuality, the number of meaningful interactions, their tone of voice, or even to projects in China where student engagement and success is being monitored through noting changes in body temperature, heart rate, and pulse, eye movement, etc., to inform educational choices that are being made. A lot of these ideas and initiatives call into question the usefulness of the data being collected and how the use of AI is truly going to enhance the learning and teaching experience safely. So globally, we're seeing an uptake in the interest and development of AI. In fact, a recent study showed that over 53% of US respondents to this chatbot researcher said they'd be fine with AI teaching their kids. But we're also seeing an increase in regulatory bodies inhibiting innovation in their efforts to maintain safety, like the EU regulations we've just seen come out, or prohibitive policy, like a lot of the local interpretations of data protection laws, which means that AI can't actually be implemented. We've also seen a general fear of introducing this new technology and wondering whether we can harness it or whether it might be being misused. So what does this mean for education and future-proofing education design? If we go to the next slide. Machine learning and other forms of artificial intelligence are being built into decision-making systems for administrators, tools for teachers, and adaptive learning systems for students. But while the use of this technology holds a great promise, that promise is counterbalanced by risk. So let's look at 3 areas of that risk. Whether implicit or intentional, bias is present in all of our education systems, and it's also present in the data that in ways that sometimes we may not comprehend, and those programming the systems may also not comprehend. This means that some programs or algorithms will be better than others at addressing this potential bias. Bias can influence things such as learning tracks for different learning types. A large number of respondents to a different study showed that they're deeply concerned that AI won't be able to adequately recognize special needs or gifted students who might not fit the common idea of what a student is. Other forms of bias can be inherent to what the technology is looking for. And a great example of this can be found on a soccer field in Scotland, where AI was being used to ensure that cameras were following the ball the entire time, providing the viewers the best possible view of their match. They hadn't thought about the fact that one of their referees was a bald man. And to the frustration of the viewers, their AI decided that that bald man's head was a much better example of a soccer ball than the actual soccer ball. So you can see how things like this could be challenging outside of education as well. Equity has also become a huge topic in the past 18 months. Equity encompasses so many parts of future-proofing our education systems, from digital foundations to conditions for learning, meaningful learning opportunities, access to quality digital technologies, and digital literacy skills. And if we believe that every child deserves a fair chance to get the education that they need to live a productive and healthy life, then our educational systems must be redesigned to provide that fair chance. And technology alone is not going to solve all of our challenges. We believe that with the wise, effective use of technology in the hands of well-trained and well-supported teachers, a huge difference can be made. The last point is that historically, technology in education has been developed by non-teachers, but delivered by teachers. This discrepancy can also be seen in a large gender bias, which is inherent to the design of a lot of our education tools. For example, in Europe, just under 70% of total users in primary schools are women, but only 16% of startups receiving funding are led or founded by women. So the stakes are too high to take this approach with AI, which is capable of operating at incredible speeds and at great scale. AI is an extremely powerful tool for pattern recognition and optimization. And most often we optimize for speed, but learning is not always about speed, which is why we need to create opportunities for direct engagement and collaboration between teachers, researchers, AI and data scientists, learning engineers, and experts in bias detection and prevention to help us purposefully redesign and design tools that are optimized or even optimizable for the needs of different learners. So how can we understand these risks, but also ensure that new technologies can be implemented? Hand over to you, Dale.
Great. Thank you very much, Beth. And we've been thinking about this a lot, not only with Dexterity, but with partners around the world. We've been thinking about how can we help facilitate the development of new tools and these groundbreaking technologies of AI and ML and anything in the predictive space. Yet the concern that our members, as we've talked about creating open infrastructure and open data sets to support open authentic data and to train new tools so that all students, and again, that not the 80% that fall within the bell curve norm, but those on the outlier edges can also receive the same technologies as Beth was talking about and the supports from that. And as we've spoken about that, the one thing that emerged in our discussions, and in particular over the last year, is do we have benchmarks that we can assess and test our products against so that we can move from fear to trust in the marketplace. And again, that is for us about equity in education. It's about safety of the tools, but it's so that every one of our learners can actually start to be delivered from a human-centered approach, a teacher-centered approach, the education necessary in allowing technology to support it. What we've launched with collective partners around the world is an ecosystem approach, is to think about starting with the user and the customer and the client, how can we bring together where transparency, openness can lead to establishing benchmarks and standards and safety measures that we can build trust around our products in the marketplace so that consumers can know that they will do no harm, but they are developed by and with the folks listed here, those thought leaders that need the regulations and policy to protect environments, the market leaders, the companies, the startups to the large, that we can actually have clear understanding and transparency in the marketplace, and in particular, again, back to the consumers in there. As we launched this initiative over the last year, and in particular since August 9th, when I was fortunate to be with Avi in San Diego, California at ASU, GSV, and others from the Israel EdTech environment, we spoke a lot about how do we engage with participants around the world. And as we launched on August 9th, this is a representative sample of both companies, national bodies, large and small entities, again, from multiple countries who have been engaged and have grown participation in this activity. Our collective group started out with to enable equity and safety of AI tools. We really need to think about specifications and standards in 4 categories to begin with. And they fortunately come up with a great acronym in English, at least, where we have safety, where it's really about that security and privacy and do no harm. And we don't need to create new data standards and data privacy standards, but we need to make sure that they are applied by a tool or that they're going to be embedded within the use of a tool. So if we take GDPR in the EU, we don't need to recreate, we utilize that within the process. Or accountability, understanding the stakeholder responsibilities and knowing the proper use of the tools, et cetera. And fairness, as Beth was talking about, that equity, ethics, non-bias is inherent in the algorithms and in the data that is utilized, and being able to provide access to enough data to do that, and inspectability of algorithms. Our researchers who become engaged have been very keen on, IP must be protected, but at the same time, we must be able to understand more about the algorithms that are developed. And the last category that in the launch is about efficacy. Can we have an understanding of the improved learning outcomes and what is being addressed by that product? We've been fortunate to be joined by friends all around the world and colleagues. So I'll let you read on the screen. We have been joined by UNESCO and as a multinational engagement partner who has been working on these activities through their digital learning policies and procedures and committees, the Broadband Commission in particular, where thinking about safety, accountability, fairness, and efficacy need to be included so that all students, regardless of where they live, can be using products that support that. So we're pleased to be joined by UNESCO and the development of the EdSafe AI Alliance. As I noted before, and I will briefly run through the last few slides here for time's sake, since August 9th, we've been joined by over 100 partners from 15 countries who are interested in a collective process to plan, develop, and form this entity. The Alliance is one that is going through its own community planning process where we have a shared governance model that is supported by our members. So it's a membership organization that is managed by Dexterity. That's what we do through communities of practice. We are focused on developing, establishing a healthy ecosystem that will enable equity through the use of AI tools to be grown with an environment of trust and practice around the world. We're asking folks to join in to this process and an open invitation to be a part of that activity, to join into the governance, to join into the working groups, to help us create access to open, authentic data to train additional tools so that we can have, like RID did with us last year, where we created a challenge to train new AI tools based on RID's EdNet data set out of Asia. and to create that and to run challenges so we can provide more tools into the marketplace with it.
And I think
And again,
one important part is just that
don't.
this is a group unlike any other standards or benchmarking organization that we have seen to date, where we're really looking to have an active participation globally and to create benchmarks and ideas and visions out of a global nature that can then be implemented safely everywhere.
Thank you, Beth. And I'll close with just, again, for time's sake and with great appreciation for the opportunity to be here. Beyond my open invitation to join us, I'll share these slides. But what we're really focused on is that every student needs to have access and should have access to human-centered delivery of education with great technology to support it. And AI and ML have those capabilities. And if we can do this together, we can build trust so that consumers can benefit. So with that, I say thank you and turn it back.
Dayo and Beth, thank you. I think it's a major work. I think unless we carry on, people like you do the work you are doing, cutting-edge technology will never enter the school system, and the school system will never enter the digital age because of the fear, scared. We've seen initiatives before trying to bring AI to enable positive things and were stopped exactly because all the fear. So I think it's a major and significant work. So thank you very much.